Hi, welcome to New Sport at the Forum. My name's Aiden and today we're going to go through a bit of a lower body stretch and release flow, the University of Newcastle stress this week. So to start today, we're going to turn to the side and we're going to come up to our hands and knees. So we're going to go through kind of like a downward dog, lower body focused movement here. So you just want to bring your wrists underneath your shoulders and we're just going to rotate or move through our spine. We're going to exhale, lifting up through our back. Inhale, dropping down. So we're going to lift and lower. You just want to make sure that your wrists stay under your shoulders so that we're not sort of moving back and forth. You want to keep that weight nice and centered and press all the way out through your fingertips. That's going to help us in a moment when we go through the next movement. And then exhale up. Inhale forward. And then we're going to exhale, drop our hips back. Now, if you're working with really tight hamstrings, calves, lower body, tuck your toes under. So it means your hips have less far to go. So we're going to inhale, come up. And exhale, curl under. Inhale, come up. Exhale, sink back. If you do have that sort of movement available to you, you can sink your hips all the way back. You might want to stay for a moment holding down in that child's pose position. And you can also bring your knees out a little bit wider so you can walk them to the sides of your mat and then sink your hips down. Moving through just a couple of times to warm up your spine here. Inhale up. Exhale, curving through the spine. Inhale and exhale. Open up through the sides of our body now. We're going to walk the hands over to one side. So you really want to sink your hips down as much as you can. Again, same options there. If you want to tuck the toes and sink back that way, might mean you don't have to go down as far. But you want to walk your hands over to one side, trying to sink down through this hip. That'll open up through the side of your body. If you are working with any injuries, anything like that, any of these movements don't feel good for you, take a modification, maybe don't do those ones, or pull back a little bit so you're not going quite as far. Then coming back to center, working through that cat-child pose. Inhale up, exhale curve, inhale forward, and when we inhale forward, we're dropping just a little bit. We're trying not to sink into our shoulders or sink into that lower back. So you want to lift up a little bit, press through the shoulders, press through the hands, so we're nice and supported through our movement. And then from here, bring those knees back underneath your hips, tuck your toes under. We're going to lift our hips up towards the ceiling, pressing right out through our fingertips. So if you feel this in your wrists in particular, you want to press right out. So imagine you're rolling that way and you're gripping with the tops of your fingers on that mat so that that weight's even. If you do need to have a break from downward dog, it can be quite strong. Come down to your knees at any point, take that rest, get that breath. Now, if you're working through really tight hamstrings or tight backs of the legs, just bend your knees as much as you need to so that you can lift your hips up and press them back towards the ceiling. So from here, we're just going to walk out our feet. So we're going to bend one leg and then the other. So you're almost rolling onto your toes for that bent knee. You're getting that movement through your feet, through your ankles, as well as through the backs of your legs into those bigger hamstring muscles and also into those calves. You can press back. We're still pressing out through our hands here, gently drawing that stomach in towards our spine. And then there's two ways to get into our next hip opener stretch. Your first way, which is a little bit more fancy, can feel a bit more fun, is you can bring one leg up to the ceiling, so lift that heel. And then as you exhale, you can sort of curve up through your body to bring that knee to your chest and then place it through your hands. And then come down to your back knee. Now, if that's not for you for any reason, for your second option, all you need to do is come down to your hands and knees. You can actually walk up, lift up onto that kneeling position and step your foot forward. So it gets you in the same spot, it just depends what works best for you. From this position here, it's a little bit different from your normal runner's stretch. What I want you to focus on is bringing your weight back over your back knee, tucking your pelvis under, and then pressing forward. So just to show you from the front, when you tuck your pelvis under, you're opening up through that front of your hip. And if you hold this position, you'll notice that you might not be able to move as far. It really gets into your hip here and can be quite tight. So keep that tucked under. If you have a chair next to you or the back of one that's quite stable, that can help you keep your balance here. And then take a deep breath in. As you exhale, keeping that tuck under your pelvis, you're going to rock slightly forward and slightly back. You might need to step your front foot forward to give you a little bit more space, so that knee can come towards your toes. But we want to make sure that front heel stays down. And you can even feel this if you put your hands on your hips. You'll feel the difference. So if you come forward and kind of release that tuck, so you let your hips grow back, you get into a different movement. We want to stay up nice and tall for this one a couple times, moving back and forward. If you find a point that you can hold, it's not too tight. If it's really tight, stick with your breath, moving in and out. And then from here, we're going to start to come into our hamstring stretch. So if you need a little bit more support under the knee, grab a rolled up towel, place that underneath your knee. Otherwise, you're going to straighten that front leg. So what I'd recommend doing is actually tucking your back toes under, bringing your fingertips down to the floor, straightening that front leg and flexing your toes. Now from here, you can bring your thumb into your hip crease, because what tends to happen is that one hip comes forward, we don't quite get as much into our hamstring stretch. So try and bring that hip back so that your hips are nice and even. And then from here, this might be enough. And you can stay here if you like. If you need to come up a little bit higher, come onto your fingertips. If you've got sort of blocks or even tissue boxes, you can come up even higher to support you with this one. Then if you want to come further into it, you can start to exhale and tip your body forward over that front leg. So if you flex your toes, again, you'll feel that potentially in your calf a little bit more. You can move in that. Now this can move really tight, so you want to move nice and gently, and you don't want to force anything suddenly in this part of your body. And then we can start to combine those few movements. So we're going to come in, we're going to come into that sort of more runner stretch and sweep your arms forward, then come up, bring them to your hips, tuck that pelvis under, and then move back and forth nice and gently. When we lift up, big breath in, exhale, flex that front foot, come forward with your hamstring, come forward into your runner's lunge, sweep the arms up, lift all the way up, tuck that pelvis under, you might bring that foot closer to you, keeping that pelvis tucked under, rocking forwards and back. If it's really tight, just stay still. And then one more time, we shift our hips back, straighten the front leg, come over that hamstring, big breath in, sweep forward, we lift up, hands come to our hips, and then we bring our fingertips down to the floor, tuck that back toe, stepping all the way back into that downward facing dog, walking out through the backs of your legs. Hopefully one side feels a little bit better than the other, a little bit less tight. Big breath in, looking forward, come down to your hands and knees. Exhale, sink in that child's pose. Inhale, we come up. Exhale, tuck the toes. And then we come to the other side. So again, there's two options. The first one is to keep that leg back, so three-legged dog. Bring that knee towards your chest. Now scoop up through the top of your spine so it gives you enough room to place your foot between your hands. And then bring your knee down. Again, if that's not for you today, all you need to do is come down to your hands and knees, walk your hands up, and then take that step forward. So with that step forward, just make sure you've got enough space to move your knee forwards and back. Again, you can use a chair to support you. Tuck that pelvis under. Breathing gently in and out. Holding that tuck of the pelvis, that tailbone gently pressing down. And if it feels confusing, all you need to do, put your hands on your hips. Move your hips all the way back and all the way forward. And you'll feel that difference as you go through. You want to come to that position. Moving back and forth, you might have one side that can move a little bit more than the other, a little bit less tight. It's fairly common to have one side a little bit different. Moving in and out. And then because we know where we're going, we can start to come into that hamstring stretch on this side. Tuck the toes, coming forward. Again, if you've got blocks, even tissue boxes you can use to the side. When I lift up, you can come through that sweep through. So lift up, coming down, flex the foot, sweep through, coming up, coming down, bending through, coming up. So you can take this as slow as you like. You can always come back and repeat this part of the video, or you can just stay in this movement once you know where to go and move through. Once you're ready, lunging forward, fingertips to the floor, lifting all the way up, pressing right into that downward facing dog, walking out through your feet, walk your feet forward, come down, and that's our lower body stretch and release.